Hello zusammen, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're all having an awesome day so far. It is finally sunny in Berlin and I am so freaking excited, if you can't tell. Very excited today. But for today's video, I'm going to actually be talking about the German work culture. I got a ton of questions about this, and thank you so much to everyone who recently left a bunch of requests over on my Instagram. I asked you what sort of videos you wanted to see, and I got a lot of questions about work culture in Germany. So that's what I am going to be talking about today. I made a video like this a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, and I talked about some culture shocks in the German work culture, my experiences so far. So I will leave that linked down below in case you've missed that. But it's been a whole year. I've learned a lot more things. I've noticed a lot more things. So I want to talk about that today. So for those of you who don't know, I moved from Toronto, Canada to work in Berlin. I moved 2 years ago, and pretty much as soon as I moved, I started working. So I've been in it, and I absolutely love where I work. I feel really lucky to have the job that I do, and yeah, I just want to talk about the work culture and what I've noticed so far. So one of the first things that I've noticed, and just based on my convos that I've had with other friends and other people that I know who work in different companies, you will notice that Germans are extremely loyal to their company. This is quite rare in North America, in Canada, in the US. People there are not very loyal to their companies. You will see that people switch out their jobs, every year, every 2 years. But I find that here it's very, very common for people to stay at the same job for several years. I hear people staying at the same job for 6 years, 10 years, even more. Even if they are at a startup, they will stay with the startup for a long, long time. And like I said, that's quite rare. Back home, people switch out their jobs very frequently, but here people are very, very loyal. Also, what I've noticed is people don't really talk that much shit about their company. And I don't know if maybe it's just the work culture, but in Canada at least, this was a very common thing. If you went out with your coworkers or, outside of work, you would just talk about your job and how much you hated it. And it was just like a really negative environment. And I find that people don't really do that here. Sure, they may be under some pressure and they may talk about, their workload and how much they have to do, but people here don't really bash their company, which I think is really amazing. And it just makes everyday life a lot easier because you're not around all this negativity, and people are generally quite happy in their work environment, which is really amazing. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is how it is quite common for managers and bosses to interact with their employees after work. So it's not always about keeping it super professional, 24/7, not seeing your employees after work, not hanging out with them, and not being as open, which it is very, very common in North America to have this stance. You don't really want to mix work and pleasure, and you really want to separate those two lives. But here I notice, at least in Berlin, it's very common for you to go out and grab something to drink with your boss, your manager, go to events after work, which I think is really cool because you can still be professional in the work environment, but you can still have fun outside of work, and it just makes the overall experience of working here a lot better. Now, I know that this is much more common in the startup environment or in the up-and-coming companies, and not so much in the traditional German companies like Mercedes or Allianz, the big companies. It's not that common to have this type of environment. It's still very much structured, and you don't mix, work and play. But like I said, at least in the smaller companies or companies, that are not as big, maybe 200 people or something, it's still quite common to mix it up and have some fun outside of work while still being professional. Ooh, something that I really love about here is the lack of cubicles in the office. Personally, to me, there is nothing worse than cubicles and having an enclosed environment where you are just sitting at a desk, staring at walls. I really love that the companies here don't have cubicles. Again, it may be like this in the traditional companies nowadays, but at least in the companies that I've seen, that I've heard about, it's a very open plan, and it's really cool because you get to interact with your colleagues. You can make jokes throughout the day. It's not like this stiff environment where you just have to be staring at your screen, and it just makes the whole experience, again, much more pleasant. If you can't tell, I am about having a really pleasant work environment. If I am going to be going somewhere every single day, I want to enjoy where I work, and luckily I have all of this in my current job, and I really appreciate that. But I think that not having, constrained work environment with, cubicles, the worst, is really, really good. Number 4 is small talk. I've mentioned this before, but Germans are not a big fan of small talk. To them, if a conversation doesn't have a purpose, a meaning, an end goal, you might as well not even have it. If you're just gonna ask somebody, how the weather is or how their weekend was, and you don't show a genuine interest in having a conversation and you're just trying to fill in the gaps, don't even bother, because people won't even entertain that idea. They will just look at you and maybe just even walk away and not even answer you, because they know that this is just the North American way of making conversation, and to them it's completely meaningless. So if you are new to a German workplace, make sure that you try to make an effort to get to know somebody. Ask them maybe about where they grew up, or maybe any recent trips that they've been to, something that's a bit more meaningful, rather than, oh, hey, how was your weekend? Or, oh my God, can you believe that it's raining outside? This weather is so horrible. This is very common in North America to have these convos just as a filler, but you definitely want to avoid that here. If you want to make meaningful relationships and friendships at work, go in with meaningful conversations, and you will be able to integrate into the work environment a lot quicker. And lastly, number 5, I want to talk about the bluntness that you are going to experience at work. This just seems to be the German way. If they have an issue with something, if they don't agree with something that perhaps you're saying, that you are raising at a meeting or a point of view, they will try to counteract your argument, and sometimes it can seem a little aggressive, a little blunt, but you just gotta deal with it, because Germans are just very passionate when it comes to their thoughts, when it comes to their arguments. And I gotta say, I've never been in so many aggressive meetings. In North America, if you are going to have a meeting with a colleague or with your team, people will state their opinions and they keep it very cordial. Even if they don't agree with what you're saying, they will try to sugarcoat the situation. But here, if someone doesn't agree with what you're saying, a point that you're bringing up, it can get a little aggressive, and people might even start yelling and raising their voice and perhaps giving you a bit of attitude, which is definitely uncalled for, but it's just the German way of doing things, and you have to try not to take it so personally. And also, you have to stand your ground. If you are coming from North America or maybe another country where you have to keep things very civilized, definitely stand your ground, because you don't want people to take advantage of you and think that you can just be a pushover. So you're gonna have to adapt this way of doing things, of maybe speaking out a bit more, of maybe being a bit more aggressive, even though it doesn't come naturally to you, because that's the way that Germans are. So you gotta, again, show that you have a voice as well. So I've learned that over the last 2 years, and I know it's a little scary for expats because they're not used to it, but don't be surprised if this happens to you, and try not to take things so personally. Germans do like to keep the work environment and life environment quite separate. So at the end of the day, to them, it's just work and things that need to get done. It is really nothing personal. So that is my last point for today. If you guys have worked in Germany or want to share any stories about work environments here, let us know down below. And for all of you who are possibly looking for a job, looking to move to Germany, you want some more tips, make sure to check out our Facebook group. I will leave the link down down below so that you can ask your questions over there. And thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you who have subscribed, who stick around for all of my weekly videos. You guys are amazing, and I will talk to you all in my next one. Have a good day. Tschüss.